In this excerpt from a reading written by Straub and Saunders, I think is how you pronounce their names, um, they talked about assessment in music and how it's way more subjective than it to grade than or assess than it is to grade like math or science, because there's no concrete correct answer in music, and you can't um, grade a student based off of how musical or like talented they are. You have to grade them based off of what you teach them. So yeah, um, they talked about something called a performance assessment, and that is basically just the ability of students to applying knowledge, so things that you teach them, um, to their own instrument, in their own performances. Um, so grading students, um, you can do this kind of like how NSMA works. Um, so instead of looking at an overall picture of their playing, um, and giving them like a number or letter grade based off of the overall quality of it, you can grade them based on intonation, rhythmic accuracy, um, tone, expression, like these little micro categories that you can give them a grade separately for. So if a student is struggling with rhythm, but they're very expressive, then you can say that they're doing well in the expression category and not so well in rhythm, and they might need to work on that. And for each of those like levels or categories, there's different levels. So like 5 levels, 5 being it was completely in tune for like intonation, 5 being it was completely in tune, 4 being maybe there's some notes that were missed but mostly in tune, 2 being or sorry 3 being mostly in tune, and then 2 and 1 being less notes in tune. And then you can assess students by either, there's a couple different ways you can do this. In my middle school, when we had to either audition for like chamber groups or just for seating, we would go into a separate room and play for my orchestra teacher. And sometimes, this was mostly after COVID, we would record videos on our computer and we would send them in to my orchestra teacher. But there's a couple other ways you can assess students. You can take a recorder during rehearsal and pass it around each section. So it could start at like the front stand, and then after like 5 minutes, pass it to the next person. And then, so this way they're not singled out and they're being assessed while not individually, well, yes, individually, but there's other things happening, so it's not totally high pressure. You could have students get up during rehearsal and play in the back of the room with the recorder, so away from everyone else in their section, but there's still noise happening, so they're not totally being like singled out as well. Or you could have them play with a stand partner, so again they don't feel pressure and they can play with someone else as well. There's a lot of value in assessing students. The first one is assessments provide information on what needs to be done. So when students are just starting out, learning posture is super important, and being assessed on posture can let them know, like, oh, I need to work on this in the future, like I need to sit up straighter during rehearsal, and so on. Communication with students and parents, letting them know what they can work on at home while they practice, having them self-assess. It promotes critical listening, especially if they listen to professional recordings and then thinking to themselves after they listen to their own recording, how can I improve this and how can I make it sound like the professional recording. We used to do this after concerts. We would listen back to our performance and then send in like a Google form with 3 things we liked and 3 things that we think we could do better.